deepens as KRA goes for gross pay. Employers describe the new directive as punitive. Policy introduces double taxation on total salary. And the story continues apace there. It says that the taxman has directed the employers to use gross pay when calculating what to deduct from staff salaries as housing levy, revealing the hidden pain for workers in the controversial tax starting this month. The directive, which has sent shockwaves across human resource departments, means that the Kenya Revenue Authority will require that allowances paid to staff, such as hardship, travel, airtime, and car allowances, be included while making monthly competitions. That is, competitions and the allowances had been left out in the initial draft finance bill, which provided for a housing fund. This is coming really from the left side. If you had planned yourself, Hashi, and that's, yes, this will be the housing levy, but now you're going for the gross pay. I think this is really what was not really negotiated.
What is the difference between that and Mr. Mandango taking the money of these parents in Eldoret? It's part of the scandalous situation that people in this country find themselves with no avenue for redress. It is very clear to me, Debal, that this government is hell-bent on taxing even our M-pesa. They will soon tax our Safaricom bundles. And remember, in the campaign, they said they were going to give us free bundles. Do you remember that? Yeah, that's what they said. If anybody remembers their campaign promises, I'm a politician, so I keep this thing in my mind. None of the promises that the Kenya Kwanza people have given us have come to pass. They said that that Mr. Odinga was going to bring a prime minister. They are the ones who brought a prime minister. They're the ones who said that there's going to be all kinds of handshakes. They're the ones doing the handshakes now today. They've just flip-flopped on everything.
All right.
And that is housing tax pains deepens because Mr. KRA has been told that there's a certain amount of money that he needs to bring in or he's going to be released from his job. So they're going to go and tax the poor, tax the working poor and the middle class, and the rich are going to run away scot-free.
All right, Peter Kagwanja, you want to comment on that? Even as we continue with the daily there, or looking at the business daily, we have Kenya's debt not rising to 1.56 trillion shillings. This is a record borrowing that has happened in this administration, according to the Daily. It says Kenya borrowed the largest amount of money in a single year during President William Ruto's first year in office, pushing the debt level past the ceiling amid shortfalls in tax collections and increased repayment obligations. And this story continues on page 5 of the Business Daily. Equity half year also earnings increased to 26 billion shillings, and KRA is seeking 1.8 billion shillings from Naivas stake sales.
Well, one thing is very clear, that as economies grow, the need for borrowing also grows, because to sustain an economy like the American economy, you need to borrow a lot. But you need to balance the borrowing and the profit and expected dividends of that borrowing. Over taxation, reliance on taxation, no country anywhere in the world has grown on taxes, taxing your own people. There's never. That's why the issue of the investors is very key, who are investing in your economy. And of course, government investment into the economy is also key. So the most important thing here is to know that, one, you cannot develop on taxes. And therefore, taxes become a question of justice. And every revolution that we know of, behind it is the question of taxation, fair taxation. Now, so if you overtax people, then you are basically igniting sentiments that might go that way. If people themselves are moderately taxed, then they grow the economy, and therefore you get investors. So that neat balance is very clear. But the last year's campaign, 2022, I don't know how the economists were feeling, because it's like, people telling you that we are on a spree to harvest the stars, and we are going to bring basketfuls of stars. We are not going to tax anybody, and we are not going to, we are debt burden and all that kind of a thing. The issue, now that we are now on governing phase of our economy, I think we need to sober up and know that borrowing is the way to go, as long as you're borrowing and you know how to pay it. And two, that overtaxation is likely to raise sentiments, opposition sentiments that are not good.
Right.
And that was the issue about the finance bill.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Issue about the finance bill. This also latest development regarding the gross pay seems to be the hidden cost that was not really revealed there. So is it a shocker to you? I know Paul Institute also has a large staff.
Well, we have to start with the housing tax. I'll let the two gentlemen who live in houses talk about tax. Some of us live in shanties. So the two gentlemen here will have to speak on that. But I do agree. I don't know whether Prof reads where I read or he was reading my mind at the same time, but I want to believe he's wise enough to already have had that knowledge. Tax is central to running things within a country. But there is no country in the history of the world that has taxed its way out of poverty or into prosperity. And that is something that is very important for us to understand. You cannot tax yourself into wealth, neither can you tax yourself out of poverty. And the theory is the more you tax, the less tax you actually get. One, there are fewer people who are going to have the capacity to pay that tax because there's going to be fewer people who are employed because employers don't like very high taxes. But two, you're going to have people who are going to try and find ways to cut corners in terms of trying to avoid tax. It's like, what are the loopholes? Like Donald Trump, used to do and to talk about it very proudly. Is where the taxes were very high, so I simply use the loopholes in the existing system to ensure that I don't pay taxes at all. And so what happens is that the net impact is that the government actually has less money to do. Now, the genius generally of economics is about investment. And I'm not sure we've focused in terms of what type of policies are we going to put in place to attract more investment, both to encourage local investors to invest internally, because as Madam Suluhu Samia said the other day, Tanzania is now awash with Kenyan investors. They're running away from our country to go and actually take their money there. And part of it had to do with uncertainty and fear. Two, what exactly are we doing to ensure that foreign investment comes into Kenya, that the environment we're creating is going to be attractive enough to make us competitive? And of course, the number of things. And so anytime we start having a discussion with regard to the way forward, I think it is important to bring together minds that have the national interest of Kenya at heart, to be able to discuss and see what are the potential or the better ways of actually being able to attract kind of investment instead of just increasing taxes. But of course, it is important to expand the tax bracket, the tax base. It is important for us and everybody to pay taxes, because there are Kenyans, of course, who are now complaining because it's the first time they're being taxed in their life. But there are those who are being taxed 2, 3, 4 times in different ways. And so can we have a system that is balanced, that ensures that everybody pays taxes, but at the same time that the tax is actually fair and does not punish wealth, does not punish hard work?
It did. All right. Well, we shall be looking at those and the raft of other issues as well here on Morning Prime. You're watching Global today. But let's just buckle down to some of the stories that also will set the conversation on, where we are learning that the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leaders have continued